Hi everyone, this is Adam from Pactimo. We are joined today with James Fitzgerald, our New England sales manager, and Lewis Moore, the founder of the Major Taylor Bicycling Club of Minnesota and a cyclist for more than 50 years. Thank you both for joining.
All right, thanks Adam, and thanks Lewis. Really appreciate you coming and joining us today.
Yes, sir.
All right, so just so everybody knows a little bit about Lewis, and I don't want to miss anything, so I'm going to read straight from my notes. Lewis spent 19 years working for U.S. Representative Martin Olav Sabo, Minnesota, in his 5th district office. During that time, greatly promoted cycling in the city, persuading Metro Transit to put bike racks on his buses, convincing CEOs of some of the city's largest employers to install biking facilities for commuters in their campuses. And as a member of the Minneapolis Bike Advisory Committee and the State Bicycle Advisory Board, he was also behind the push to get Minneapolis to put bicycle lanes on the streets. Not only has he been responsible for these incredible developments, but he has also been a large voice and influence to riders of color in this community. And on a national level, his club helped convince the League of American Bicyclists to form an equity initiative. And in 2008, they helped found the National Brotherhood of Cyclists. So, it's obvious, Lewis, that you've been doing yeoman's work in this area, and we just like to talk to everybody about how your club got started, your mission, and things that you're doing in your community. So thank you very much, and go right ahead.
All right. Well, the club was created on my deck in the fall of 1999.
Cool.
And it was formed around some ladies who did a bike ride from Minneapolis to Chicago as part of the AIDS ride program back in the late 90s and early 2000s. And we sat down and decided that we wanted to have a club of people of color here in Minneapolis. And we don't have a large population of black folks here, but we were able to create this club. And the discussion became, what are we going to name the club? And I had just, and I mean literally the week before, finished the novel about the life of Major Taylor. And I started telling them about the book that I had read and his legacy. And I think it took 2 or 3 minutes before everybody just stopped me and said, we have the name of the club. Major Taylor. And that's great. Where we went. And it was kind of interesting because the first ride we did was a local event in one of the suburbs, and we had some T-shirts on that said Major Taylor, Minnesota, and nobody was familiar with us. Nobody knew who we were, and I think we spent most of the ride answering questions rather than writing our
Yeah.
But it that's just part of the community and the way it was. But the bike club has grown substantially over the years. We've been around for 20 years. We celebrated our 20th anniversary last year.
Wow.
And as I mentioned to you, that's the jersey behind I guess it's my right shoulder. And we have been a part of the community, been part of the planning community for additional bike trails, additional bike facilities downtown, the bike lockers. We've helped put together a lot of the trails. And here in Minneapolis, we have what is considered a bike highway. It's called the Midtown Greenway. And it's a project I worked on for 10 years with other city officials that opened up in 2004. And it extends from the Mississippi River, which is St. Paul, all the way out to the western suburbs of Minneapolis.
Wow.
A complete paved facility for bicyclists, roller skaters, and people who want to walk. I mean, it's divided up all the way across. So it has become a national phenomenon for a lot of people. A lot of people come to town, and the first thing they want to do is get on the Midtown Greenway. And it has turned out to be just a great facility.
No, it's very nice.
So we were part of that. We've been a part of like parking, as I mentioned before. We've got lanes. We've got bike throughways. I mean, this city has bike facilities that are probably way up there at the top, along with Chicago and some of the other major cities in the country. So we're very proud of the work we've done.
I've actually ridden through Minnesota or through Minneapolis, and I think it's probably hands down one of the best cities I've ever biked through. It's so amazing. I mean, super extensive, the trails.
Yeah, we were classified as the second best city in the nation for bike facilities.
Wow.
Probably
Wow.
3-4 years ago. I think the last few years it's been third. But Chicago's done a lot. New York has
Right.
done a lot. So they get a lot
Yes,
of
sir.
publicity.
Right.
And
Yeah.
of course, the cities on the West Coast.
Yeah. And how did you get into cycling? What brought you into this great sport?
Well, a quick story. My wife and I got married in 1963.
Congratulations on that.
We've been married 58 years, or 57 years.
Wow.
We didn't have a car. I was going to school and had 3 part-time jobs and a 3-speed swim.
Wow.
So that's how I got. She took the bus.
Wow.
And then we had our daughter, and we decided, well, we better buy a car. So we bought a car.
Yeah.
But that's basically when I started riding. As the years went by, we did a lot of traveling with the kids. I would always take a bike, so I rode in other states. Then in the early 80s, I started doing over-the-road cycling, which I really enjoyed. I could see a lot, we did camping, we did all kinds of things. Then in the late 80s, we started doing fundraising rides. And I think it was 1987, 86, 87, we did a ride from Denver, Colorado to Minneapolis.
Wow.
And raised $12 for the United Negro College Fund. It was just 2 of us,
Super cool.
but we did it in about 5.5 days. So we were really thrilled with ourselves. And then we did several fundraising rides from Minneapolis to Chicago, raising money for another local organization. And then got into a little racing here and there.
Yeah.
Raced across Minnesota, a couple of local criteriums, even one in my neighborhood. And then after that, we got close to the late 90s, and we decided that we wanted to start thinking about a bike club, and we formed this club in 1999.
Wow.
Oh, that's
So
fantastic.
that's my history.
Yeah.
The club has been around, as I said, for 20 years, and we have grown nicely. We're about 60, 65 members. There's a nice mixture of probably 40% white, 60% black. And there's a kind of camaraderie that you don't have in a lot of these clubs. A lot of these clubs have little battles back and forth over things. We don't have a lot of folks, and I think it's because a lot of us are a little older. We have probably 7 members that are 70 and over.
Wow.
I'll be 80 in 4 months, so I'm the oldest. And then we have a majority of the club is between 50 and 60. So there's not a lot of pettiness, I guess is what I'm getting at. And it's made it to be a real nice organization.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. Thanks for telling that story. So we're going to, go back to kind of the point where this kind of reckoning in racial justice and social equality kind of came about. And so with the killing of George Floyd and all the events that sparked this conversation about justice and equality, what's the impact that it's had on you, your club, and your community, and cycling in general in your community? So I'd love to hear your story about what happened with the killing of George Floyd.
Well, the killing of George Floyd took place 6 blocks from my house. It took place in an intersection that I rode through 4, 5, 6 times a day, or not a day, a week. It happened on Memorial Weekend. It was a totally unnecessary situation. They claimed that he passed a fake $1 bill or $20 bill or something. And they still don't know that that's the fact, but that's what they claimed. And it accelerated to the point where this Officer Chauvin put his knee on his neck and literally choked the man to death. And it was all recorded by a 17-year-old high school senior. And everybody has seen the video nationwide, probably worldwide. Mm-hmm. And it was probably one of the most horrific things that had ever happened in the Minneapolis community.
Absolutely.
And being in my
Absolutely.
community, we had to deal with, during that period of time, a lot of people came to town. As you all know, there were riots on a major thoroughfare called Lake Street, which is 14 blocks from my house. A lot of people burning buildings. There were white supremacist groups there were Antifa groups there. There were all kinds of folks, all from somewhere else, not even local folks. That's the thing that's really irritating. These people all came to town from other parts of the country and really basically just tore up the whole corridor from St. Paul through Minneapolis all the way down Lake Street. And it was hard to deal with because having lived here a long time, those are areas that I have patronized, that I have shopped in. That I have shopped in, and it was hard to accept that basically a lot of it is gone. It's torn down and it's gone. And
Wow.
Unless you have been a part of the community, you really wouldn't understand this. And to sit back and think about how unnecessary this whole situation was to start off with, and to see what has happened since, this is the bad part, obviously. And a lot of people, a lot of us locally just feel like we were invaded and really didn't have an opportunity to really try to prevent this kind of a situation. The Minneapolis police has been an issue for a long time. I'll tell you a quick story. We had been a club for about a year, and we were riding on a main thoroughfare here in Minneapolis. And we wear these very loud jerseys. In fact, it's the color of this T-shirt I have on. It's called Screaming Yellow. And we did that deliberately because we wanted to make sure that we were seen by traffic on the street. And a couple of Minneapolis policemen, we were at a stop sign. They drove up and they rolled down the window and they looked out the window at us. And then one of the officers said, "Well, that's a different kind of gang." And then he rolled up the window and they drove off laughing. They thought it was funny. We looked at them like, "What are you talking about?" But that was the mentality of some of the members of the Minneapolis Police Department. So for this kind of situation to happen, a lot of us were not totally unfamiliar with what we were dealing with. That whole corner up there now, they're going to, excuse me, they're going to try to make a memorial and possibly cut off the street because it has a local impact, a national impact, and a worldwide impact.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think what is happening here is that a lot of people had an opportunity to have their eyes open. People in the Black community have been talking about these issues for years, but a lot of folks, it goes in one ear and out the other. Really don't have the opportunity to really sit down and think about this or even look at it. And as it turns out, I think this has been one of the most positive situations that could ever happen with race relations in our country.
Yes, sir. So, so building on that, and to keep this conversation moving forward, what can we learn from this situation, and how can we help forward this conversation?
Well, I think probably what can be done here is people need to learn to accept people who are different than they are. Not just in color, but maybe in just different in general. For many years, I worked in jobs where I was the first. And you know what I'm saying? I'm the first black. Target had a warehouse system here that I was the first black supervisor in. I was one of the first blacks in management in the grocery industry here. I was the first black in a congressional office, or at least this particular congressional office that I worked in here. So there has been, there's an opportunity here for people to really sit and talk and understand one another. I've been doing that for years. I've been explaining these things for years to a lot of people. I mean, I've been on there is close to 80 years, so I've had a lot of experience in communicating with folks. And if we can get people to sit down and understand each other, enjoy each other, learn from each other, spend time actually maybe being on a bike with somebody different than what you're used to riding with. We find that most of the white members in our club enjoy riding with the black members in our club because it's a learning process and it's a communication process. And it makes people feel that, you know, maybe they're not so much different than I am. Maybe there's just a difference in skin tone.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's something that people have to really sit down and get some good, true thought to, and make a decision that they're going to want to do in order to make things move forward in the proper manner.
Excellent. Excellent.
On that same kind of note, Louis, do you think that there's something in particular you'd like to see from like the cycling community overall? I mean, obviously you're seeing a lot happening right now in your community, but is there something that you think that the cycling world could hopefully promote within the sport, or that you'd like to see more of, even just in your own city?
Well, you know, I would like to see a little more promotion of Major Taylor cycling clubs in general. We have probably close to 70 clubs in the country now, and I don't think a lot of people know that.
That's true, yeah.
And you're just about in every major city. Just about every major city has a Major Taylor cycling club, and some have 2 or 3. We have grown like, probably 60, 70, 80% just in the last 10 to 12 years. There's a new Major Taylor club coming online probably every 3 or 4 months. People in the African American community have now begun to figure out that this sport is not just competitive, but it's good for them. It helps them stay physically fit, because our community has a lot of issues with obesity and heart disease and diabetes. And these are things that we promote when we try to get people to join the club. It's a change in lifestyle. It's a change in your eating habits. It's a change in your sleeping habits. And you learn to love a sport that you can do independently, but you can do as a group as well. And that is important for a lot of people, especially today during this pandemic.
Yeah.
Because you have to be able to do something that's going to keep you physically, healthy, but you're also going to have to learn to ride by yourself, but you can still ride with people and communicate as well. We are not doing official club rides this year, obviously because of COVID-19.
Right.
But there's a group of we older riders who get together a couple times a week and go out and do 30, 40, 50 miles just to keep ourselves from some sort of physical shirt. But we have other members who are out riding separately. But I think the promotion of these clubs would be important, and I think the bike community as a whole, nationwide, needs to know and accept these groups. We have, within these groups, we have several folks who are nationally known race champions. The Williams brothers from the Major Taylor Club of Los Angeles. I think the younger one now is the National Criterion champion.
Wow.
And
that's
right behind him, Justin Williams. And then you have Rashaan Vahadi, who is also out of LA, who's been in the racing circuit for 10, 12, 15 years now. And he's he's constantly up in the ranks and constantly winning. And so people need to recognize that these are bona fide organizations, and that, if you're going to be out there racing, do not be surprised to find a Major Taylor jersey in the pack someplace, because
that's right.
Here locally, we got involved with the Velodrome.
Oh, cool.
And we go out by the Velodrome 4 times a summer. And then we got a couple of club members to get out and race. Unfortunately, the Velodrome was taken down this year because they decided they wanted to expand the facility out there at the sports center. So, but that was something that we had to do, because that is what Major Taylor did in history. Velodrome racing.
Yeah.
Right.
And we've also gotten involved in other races in the community. And it's still it's interesting, we're in 2020 and people still raise their eyebrow when 5 or 6 black cyclists show up to race. And that shouldn't
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And and your role while working in state and local government, as far as the challenges that you faced there, and how did you advocate for the cycling community, and the push for change, and regarding safety in cycling, and we want you to speak on that,
Okay.
working in state and local government in regards to improving the cycling experience in your community.
Okay. Well, working for a congressman really helped. Martin Sabo was an interesting person who was chairman of the Transportation Committee in the early 90s. So he had some power. He had passed legislation to put together a government pamphlet about biking and walking.
Oh, wow.
So people could get physical exercise or start doing physical exercise. During that period of time, he dragged me in the office one day because I rode a bike to work. And he said, okay, now you are going to have to do my promotion for cycling because I don't know how to ride a bike. And he literally did not know how to ride a bike.
Wow.
So I ended up being the bike guy in the office, obviously. And we worked together. He got the initial funding for the Midtown Greenway. He got a $1 million allocation to start the process.
Wow.
And as you know, when the feds kick in, then the state will kick in, then the county will kick in, then the city will kick in, and we were able to get the funding to complete the project. So then I ended up in all these committees that James was talking about there, and we moved forward. It was slow, but we moved forward. The problem is that you have to convince your local officials to get on board.
Yeah.
You talked about those bike racks, James, on the buses. The bus company came to our first meeting at the Minneapolis Bicycle Advisory Board and said, "You want to do what?" And we said, "We want you to put some racks on for bikes on your buses." For what? We're supposed to be getting people on the bus to ride, not ride their bikes. I said, well, we said, but if you put racks on, you're going to have people at the bus stop with their bikes, put their bikes on the rack, get on the bus, go where they're going to go, take the bike off, and
come back.
ride off. And the guy said, that's an interesting concept. And so within 6 months, we had them convinced to buy these racks and put them on the bus. And now they're on every bus in the city.
That's fantastic.
And I was just part of the process of setting up the lanes and some of the major roads here in the city. And then everything just kind of snowballed. I mean, it just began to build, and cycling became more popular, and the Greenway became a reality in 2004.
Yeah.
Which the congressman sat on a 4-wheel bicycle. You guys got to picture this now. 4-wheel with a canopy.
Wow.
And everybody, and I think the two up front did the steering. And he rode with the mayor, who was Sharon Sells Belton. She was the first woman mayor of the city of Minneapolis and the first African-American mayor of the city of Minneapolis. And so they rode down the Greenway for about 2 miles on this bike. It was quite the scene, I'll tell you. But after that, things really snowballed, and the bike lanes and cycling itself has grown to the point now where in the morning, if you're out here on some of these main streets, there's lots of cyclists going to work.
No, that's fantastic. That's a great story.
Yeah. So another thing we wanted to kind of touch on was, obviously with pushing forward in terms of cycling within your own community. In general, when you started the Major Taylor Bicycling Club of Minnesota, what were some of those mission and goals that you were trying to promote? I know you said earlier, we were talking beforehand, that even in the city of Minnesota, there wasn't many people of color. Is it something that you were also trying to promote in terms of just obviously getting people involved in the sport, but you think that over time, did the club somehow maybe influence more people to move into the city? In having such a bike-friendly city, I'm sure more people were attracted to it. But What were some of those goals you had early on?
Well, obviously, the main goal was to build our membership.
Mm-hmm.
But once we were able to get a fair amount of members, our goal really was what I mentioned before, trying to get people to be physically healthy.
Yeah.
There were so many people, you had a lot of people who would just say, well, I can't ride around the block. And I said, well, but you need to try. I mean, you need to give it an effort. You can't just sit on the couch with the channel changer in one hand and a can of beer in the other hand and say, I can't do it. You have to get out and actually give it a try.
Right.
A quick story, we had a young lady come out to join the club. She was actually a girlfriend of my daughter. She was the treasurer of the club. She came out with a old Huffy bike. Remember the Huffy bikes they used to sell?
Yeah.
She had a foam helmet. I don't know if you guys are old enough to
Yeah,
remember foam
I
helmet.
remember those.
I do not. I'm going to.
I remember them as
she
kids.
Had on some tight jean shorts, a t-shirt, and some tennis shoes. And she said, I'm going to ride with you guys. And she rode with us. But boy, she was beat when she got back.
Yeah.
And I went to help her get her bike back in her car. And I swear that bike weighed as much as I did. And I told her, you really need to, see if you can kind of move forward with your bicycling equipment. Within a week, she called me. She was at a local bike shop. She said, I want you to come down here. I want you to see this bike. I want you to tell me what kind of shoes to get, what kind of helmet to buy, what kind of pants to buy. Within a week and a half, she was fully ready to go. And once she learned to clipped in, and then she rode her bike with the club, she turned out to be just a great cyclist.
Yeah.
And that's what
fantastic.
we want. I mean, that's what we wanted people to do. There were other people that basically went through the same process, but it's really just a matter of trying to convince folks to understand that this is good for you.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that gives you a chance to go out on your own and have some private time.
Yeah.
It gives you a chance to where you can think, where you can wind down from the day. I used to ride home from work, winding down from the day.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things that were important, and it's worked out well with this club.
That's great.
That's great. That's fantastic. And so in terms of and how has your community come together in the past few months?
Well, it's just remarkable. You go through the communities now, and there's more Black Lives Matter signs than I've ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So some people the eyes have opened. I mean, with some people, it's probably a fad, but I think a lot of people had an opportunity to see something firsthand that they've only heard about before, and actually were able to respond to it in some way. We have had marches in the city every day since he died.
Wow.
So there was last night and the night before. It really hasn't stopped, but I think that those marches are made up probably of 80% people who are white, and a lot of people have just really changed their philosophy about dealing with people of color.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's going on nationwide and worldwide, and this is what we have to continue to promote and push for.
Right. And Louis, I'm glad that you mentioned that these marches are still happening, because it's not getting the coverage in the media that it was in the beginning.
Right.
And one of our goals is to, as I've mentioned before, keep this conversation going and keep pushing this needle forward, and not and never getting to a place of complacency ever again. So, here we are, and we're going to just keep moving this cause forward. So I really appreciate you mentioning that, letting everyone know that this is still going on, that this is still important in your community.
Yeah, and in tying in Major Taylor's story, this was obviously something that he had to deal with back in the late 1800s.
Oh, definitely.
Early 1900s.
Right.
He was a man who basically, when he raced, he stayed out front so he could stay out of trouble.
Right.
Because a lot of the riders on the Velodrome were out to get him on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Right.
And as you know, he left the country for a few years, became a national figure overseas and in Australia.
Yeah.
And basically, he was chased out of the country.
Yeah.
And when he did come back, he still was able to beat everybody in sight, which of course is
Right. Right. Yeah. It's I race on the velodrome myself, and just those, it's tough enough as it is without
bet.
anybody trying to chase you down for the wrong reason. So
Yeah,
yes,
because when you're riding a velodrome, you got to concentrate.
Yeah.
that's right.
That was one of the things we really had to learn early on. You
Yeah.
got to pay attention to what you're doing, and you can't
Absolutely.
stop and coast and grab your glasses or scratch your nose. You got to keep, you got
That's
to keep.
right.
Jeez Louise.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you very much. Well, I have no more questions. I'm out of questions, Adam. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say if anybody else that's watching does have any questions at the moment, just type them in the comments so we can address them and make sure that Lewis can answer your questions. Either way, we'll make sure that we can get them answered. But if you do have something now, just let us know. One thing that I really love to ask everybody though, and I think I got a sense of it from what you were saying, Lewis, is obviously the sport of cycling has had a tremendous impact in your own personal life. I want to know, just from your own personal perspective, what does the sport of cycling mean to you?
It means that at going on 80 years old, I can stay physically fit. I can still, this group I ride with, we average between 19 and 22 miles an hour.
Oh man,
I think at my age, that's not bad.
That's really good.
That's not bad at my age.
Yeah, it's mine either.
This is no time to be humble.
Yeah, that's legit.
But it does, it enables me to have 3 meals a day. It enables me to sleep, 6.5, 7 hours a night.
Nice.
It also enables me as president. And actually, I've been president of Major Taylor Bicycling Club since the beginning. So It's been 20 years.
Wow.
We've had a few elections, and nobody seems to want to take the mantle, so I am continuing to move forward with it, which is fine. I mean, I don't have any problem with that.
Right.
I told my daughter, when I get too old to communicate or when I can't ride anymore, let me know, and then I'll step aside. But it's been a good opportunity to be able to incorporate something in my life that really feels good.
Yeah.
And
That's fantastic.
And I enjoy the opportunity. My bike is a little on the flashy side. It's got Major Taylor all over the wheels, Major Taylor Minnesota all over the wheels, and it kind of people kind of gravitate to it. When we do events, maybe we'll do a table at an event or something. We'll put my bike out front. People will come up to it, and want to ask about it. And one of the interesting questions that I get during those type of events is, well, you guys are a black bike club. Can I join? I'm white. And I say, well, if I would, as a black rider, would come to your white club and ask if I could join, what would you tell me? And said, oh, yeah. I said, you just answered your own question.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's really great.
That's fantastic.
Well,
fantastic.
maybe we can also ask you, Lewis, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our community, something to keep an eye out for, or just thoughts to kind of think about, as this conversation moves forward?
Well, one of the things I would like to say, and I'll mention an event that we're planning for 2021, depending on COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
Major Taylor Minnesota is going to do a Diva Ride.
Oh, wow.
You know what divas are?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
In our community, black women have really taken to cycling.
Cool.
If you go to Facebook and go to Black Cyclists, I don't know, James, have you had an opportunity to look at that site?
Yes, I have.
There are just tons of black women now involved in cycling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably because of the physical fitness, the camaraderie.
Yeah.
And I think they like the style of the clothing.
That's right.
Kitted out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
there's Diva Cycling, and there's Black Girls Do Bike,
Yep.
and I love their kits. I mean, they are. It's a fantastic group, and something, Louis, they are a great group of women that are supporting each other. They're supporting the sport, and they're just a fantastic groups of women out there that are great riders.
Mm-hmm.
They're great, and they're great bike riders.
I had an opportunity to be in Washington, D.C. about 5-6 years ago when they were doing one of their rides, when they were just beginning Black Girls Do Bike, and very impressive. I mean, some of those girls were really very good. We have also had an affiliation with Aisha McGowan, who is
Yep.
the black who's
Yeah.
doing racing now. She's come up here to do some races, and we've hosted her on a couple of occasions. But we're going to do this event next summer where we're going to celebrate the black woman in cycling.
That's
And
great.
we're hoping that we can attract cyclists from all around the country. I have met many of the ladies who are, as I call them, divas,
Yes.
who could probably generate interest in this event. And I did do the Selma to Montgomery bike ride back in February before the COVID hit hard. And I met a lot of them there.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are extremely good riders, extremely knowledgeable about cycling. So we thought it'd be a good idea to go ahead and do something like that and see how many folks we can attract from other parts of the country to come to Minnesota and enjoy our facilities and know that they're here.
That's fantastic.
They
Well,
said they wanted to come, so we're going to give them that opportunity.
yeah. Well, keep me in mind when you're in your planning stages for that. Just just shoot me a message, and we'll see what we can do about supporting that cause.
That would be great.
Sure.
I will
I
mention.
just want to make sure that everybody does support women in cycling because it is really, really, really taken off.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
There's actually another group that I've been connected to, Pedal to the People. Rachel Oltzer, she runs the group in Minnesota, I think in Minneapolis as well, if you've met her. She's super great. Really strong mountain rider. So, but anyway.
There are a couple of other groups up here too. I think there's a woman's mechanical shop as well up here.
Oh, cool.
That fits. They have women who are mechanics and that are part of the support for women in Minneapolis for cycling.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. If anybody has any other questions, I think we'll wrap things up. But I wanted to just thank you so much, Louis and James, obviously for joining and sharing your story. Yeah,
and I know that I myself am inspired, and I'm actually gonna go ride my bike right now. So
there we go.
I'm inspired. So thank you very much for this conversation, your insight and your candor. And like I said, I am, and I hope that that other people that are watching share my sentiment when I say I am just simply I'm awed by you, and I'm thankful and honored and humbled that you came on with us, and I am inspired. Thank you very much, Louis.
Oh, thank you. It was a great joy to do this.
Great.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Adam.
Yep. Bye, guys.